What's up, everybody? I'm here to do a little update on the Sherman Max. I know a lot of people have been kind of questioning, like, oh, how do you like it so far? I only have about 60 miles so far. I did the Friday night ride, and then I also did a Super 73 ride with some of the bikes, the e-bikes here that came in from Seattle. Some things I wanted to quickly go over was I don't like the pad setup on my Sherman Max. I got these Kai pads, and they're just not made for a 100-volt wheel. Put this up a little bit more. They're just a little too small all around. They need to be like 30% bigger. And also the width of these are the smallest width of any pad I had. I got scientific with it today and measured it. And you can see, like, when I go and measure it, it's actually under 2 inches in width. I'll show you guys so you can see. I guess it's right at 2 inches, but that's really not enough. The Clark pads, the Clark 3D Extreme pads, these guys are about, let's see here. They're more like 2.5 inches in the width of the pad. And the reason that it's super important to have a good width on your power pads is, especially for someone my weight, when I'm 150 pounds and I'm throwing my wheel out in front of me and I'm telling my wheel to like stop and I hit the brakes, I want my entire leg to be cupped in that brake. I don't want my half of my calf like leading off of the pad. I want my pad to be completely covering my calf. I want to pull back into it. I want to be able to throw this 80-pound wheel and like immediately have like the responsiveness of the brake. Another thing I didn't like about the Kai pads is that they have these slits on them, both the gas and the brake, which is like where it's kind of like, I don't know what you're doing there. Like the gas, I get it because like you're going to push on it and there's going to be like a little bit of give. And I kind of see that maybe for like the gas, but the brakes, that's a big no-no. I don't want any kind of give or lack of responsiveness when I'm going for my brakes. I want them to be there. I want them to be strong. I want them to be firm. And I don't want to be like searching for it or like having it give me like a little bit of like cush. I want responsiveness 100% on my brakes. So the Kai pads, I think that they're more appropriate for like an 84-volt wheel, something like a 16X, or, you know, maybe even like a 16-inch 100-volt wheel, like, you know, like a like the V12 or something would be more appropriate. But when you start getting into like the 20-inch like big wheels like this, the 100-volt big wheels, it's kind of like you need a bigger pad setup. And honestly, my favorite pads are the ones that are on my EXN right now. The old beep of the EXN, beep. These pads here are actually the widest of all the pads. These guys here are like 2.8 inches in width. So they're even wider than the 3D Extremes. And the other thing I like about these pads is that there's no give and there's no like cupping, like how these Clark pads have this cupping. You can see how like my hand, like there's like a curvature. I don't want cupping. And I get it kind of like, oh, if you're doing trail riding or something, it's a little something to like set your leg into, but especially on the gas, I really don't want like my leg cupped that much. I'm looking for, again, like a 90-degree strong angle with a really wide width. And for some reason, it's hard to find that in the pads. So these like ones that my friend Sheridan printed me are still my favorites out of the Clark 3D Extremes and the Kai pads, which are my least favorite of the bunch. I do want to try the Grizzly pads. I see a couple of my crews riding around with them. I should bring a tape measure and actually measure somebody Grizzly's pads tomorrow so I can like see what the width is before going through the trouble of buying them and then like resell, like I'm gonna have to sell these Kai pads because it's like I don't have an 84 full wheel, you know, and I just have like a ton of wheel stuff, just like piles and piles of like extra this and extra that. So I'm trying not to have like 1,000 things laying around. But I do love the Sherman Max. It's definitely way torquier than the original Sherman. It has a different, smoother feel than the EXN high speed. And I don't really know how to describe it than that this is a little more like a jerky feeling wheel. And the Sherman Max is more of like a smooth, kind of comfortable wheel. The EXN high speed feels more like a Ferrari, in my opinion, like a sports car, like zippy, pop, 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 pop. And it's a little hard on the body, honestly. You know, you ride the EXN high speed and it's harder, it's hard to control. Like this thing feels like bulky, and the Sherman Max feels like really nimble. Like the EXN feels like it's like a fat, like lower, like thicker, kind of like, you know, more like an RS where it's like low to the ground. It feels like a little wider at the bottom point. The Sherman Max feels way more slender. It feels like more like a ballerina, and it has like torque and power like the EXN high speed, but in a smoother design. I am going to try putting on some different pads on the Sherman Max because the Kai pads haven't been doing me like any favors on far as like confidence goes, because I'm like scared to be going too fast, and when I go for the brakes, it's like it's just not there. So I'm going to either put these pads on or the Clark Pad 3Ds Extremes on, and then ride the Sherman Max tomorrow, and then I'll let you guys know how I like it with the with pads that have like a little bit wider girth and that don't have that weird kind of like givey thing that the Kai pads have. So that's a little update for you guys on the wheels. Oh, I should tell you about the Clark pedals. So the Clark pedals, when I put them on the Sherman Max, they were super flat. Like they were almost at like a 0-degree tilt. And then I put these little like shims in that were like, that came with the pedals. And it gave me, I actually like used my iPhone to measure it. And it was like a 9-degree tilt angle. So like the tilt angle is like this, is like, oh, this angle here. Like how far is it tilted in? And I actually didn't notice how much I like the tilt angle on the EXN until like I didn't have it. You know, because the Sherman Max, I guess, has like a lower tilt. So now I'm at 9% degree tilt, which I like quite a bit better. I do have some Free Motion version 2 pedals on the way, the Honeycomb ones in red, of course. I love red. So I will give you guys an update on how I like the different pedals. The Honeycomb pedals are definitely the way to go with the bigger wheels. When you start getting into the bigger wheels, you're not relying on the body, like the nimbleness of the wheel, or like, and you know, the same thing with the pads. Like the bigger wheels, like the more important the accessories are. You know, if you have like a really big wheel and you're like searching, you have these like little girly pads that are like too small and too gibby, and you don't have the pedals matter too, because you're using the pressure point in your foot a lot more than like your calf and stuff. Like on the King Song wheels, you can almost like, it's almost like a horse, you know, kind of where you're like using like your legs and your calves and your thighs to like move the wheel around. But when you get into these bigger, heavier wheels, especially with like the EXN high speed, you really need to learn how to use your feet, you know. And one thing that I've noticed is there's almost I almost use one foot more. Like when I like go to like accelerate, I don't like equally put pressure on both feet. I like put like more pressure on like the left foot than the right foot. And I kind of like, it's hard to explain, but like one of my foot is kind of like my extra gas pedal. And it just makes it easier to control the wheel when you have these Honeycomb pedals, because you can put like different pressure points on your foot as you're riding. And it helps with foot fatigue, like so much. Like I used to do so much crap to like help with my foot fatigue. And then when I got the Honeycomb Pedals, I was hesitant to buy them because the Honeycomb Pedals are like $250 a piece. That's fucking crazy. You know, it's like, oh, it's a lot of money, you know, especially when you can get like the Merlin Fish plates for like $80, you know, but there is a reason, you know, that the Merlin Fish pedals are $80 and the Honeycomb pedals are like $250. And it's because the pet or the plates just kind of go on top of the original pedal. So you're still kind of like just using the whole base of the pedal, and you don't have like all of the extra, you know, free space and like, you know, all the thises and the that's that help with the foot fatigue. And the Honeycomb pedals are, I mean, if you're a serious rider, I would say that they're worth it. But if you're just getting into the sport, I understand how $250 is like a big ask. So, but anyways, I did have to take off the beep settings. I was on my way to the Friday night ride and I was like, you know, I had to like on the spot, change my settings, you know, the tilt back and the speed alarms and all that stuff. So that was, you know, I had somebody I had Cameron help me with that. But it was easy. It was just in the menu. You just have to like click through it. But I've never owned a Sherman before, so I didn't know. Sometimes like with the King Song wheel, you had to go into the King Song app and actually like change it through the app. On the Sherman, you can just do it through the screen, which is really nice. But I just wanted to give everybody an update on how I'm liking the Sherman Max. It's a phenomenal wheel. It's super smooth. I'm really grateful that I have it and I'm able to put some miles on it and compare it to the EXN High Speed. I was gonna sell my EXN High Speed, but after feeling how different the two wheels are and how difficult it is to get wheels right now, man, you have a wheel go down and it's like you're without your wheel for a couple weeks. It's like, ugh. You know, it's kind of nice to have a backup wheel. So I have the Sherman Max right now, the EXN High Speed, and then I have my V11, which is kind of like typically what I take to get to the grocery store. And if I'm just like kind of running a small errand or whatever, there's, you know, the V11 is not a fun wheel, but man, it's a practical wheel, you know, for like getting around downtown. You know, you can't spring load it like you can the S18, but the V11 like takes those potholes like a champ. You know, you can just like abuse the shit out of that wheel, not really pay attention, and it just kind of like eats up all the bumps in the roads. Where like, you know, the Sherman Max is actually better than the EXN High Speed. The Sherman Max kind of eats up the bumps too, but man, that EXN High Speed, if you're not paying attention and you hit a pothole, that thing will take you out. Will like whip you off that wheel. So all of the wheels have their different applications, and that's kind of like what's so fun about this hobby is like, you know, people are like, oh, it's the best wheel, and it's like, what's your application? You know what I mean? So I really love this hobby. It's definitely been an empowering journey for me. I'm really stoked to have this wheel, and I'm excited to be riding more wheels. I'm excited for what's going to come out next. Thanks for watching, and I'll update you guys on like the pads and which ones I end up liking on the Sherman Max. Thanks for watching. Bye.